What happens when you don't agree with an elected official?
A mass recall campaign in Taiwan that's seeing supporters of the KMT and the ruling DPP launch petitions to unseat each other's lawmakers is set to get bigger and messier.
In Taiwan, the answer seems to be a political recall. Since January 2025, people have started petitions to recall over 50 lawmakers. While there have been recalls in the past, there have never been major campaigns from two major parties spurring recalls of the other side. It's the latest escalation of partisan tensions in the legislature, despite the ruling Democratic Progressive Party holding the presidency and other branches of government. The opposition coalition of the Kuomintang and the Taiwan People's Party have pushed through legislative reforms that reduce the influence of the president and the cabinet. The ruling DPP has described these changes as disrupting the government and has called for several opposition politicians to be ousted.
我们要双罢，第一个要罢免政务院长，第二个要罢免国民党41个起义立委，都应该把它罢掉。
But what is the process of a political recall? Is it hard to do? Are people using it vindictively? And most importantly, is it effective?
铲除克星，罢免双无，
驱逐亲中政党，驱逐亲中政党。
A recall is intended to remove a public official that constituents see as unfit to serve. In Taiwan, recall proceedings consist of 3 stages: proposal, petition, and vote. Public officials, including legislators, city councilors, and mayors who have been in office for at least a year, can all be subject to recall. In the first stage, campaigners propose the recall by collecting signatures. They need the signatures of 1% of constituents in the official's electoral district to propose the recall. After those signatures are collected, they're sent to the Central Election Commission, which then has 25 days to verify the signatures and move the proposal onto the second stage, also known as the signature petition period. Now campaigners have 60 days to collect the signatures of 10% of people in the electoral district in order to move forward with a vote. Once again, the signatures are passed on to the Election Commission for verification. If the petition passes, the recall moves to the third stage and must be officially put to a vote within 20 to 60 days. The official subject to recall will have 10 days to submit a statement of defense. To successfully remove the official, the number of votes in favor of the recall must be over 25% of the total number of voters in the district, and the number of supporting votes must be greater than the number of opposing votes. Now, what stops constituents from doing this over and over again? Well, there are precautions in place to keep that from happening. If the recall goes all the way to a vote and fails, the target is free from recalls for the rest of their term. This was the case for the most recent attempted recall of Keelung Mayor George Xie. As of February 21st, 52 legislators in the 113-seat legislature have recall motions against them, all in the first stage. That means nearly half of Taiwan's lawmakers could possibly lose their seat. The push for these recall campaigns come after countless battles in the legislature between the DPP, which holds 51 seats, and the opposition KMT and TPP, which hold a combined majority of 60 seats. Since January 2024, the opposition has been pushing legislation to gain more oversight over the president, cabinet, and judiciary. The Kuomintang has criticized the removal campaigns against their party's lawmakers as revenge recalls.
尊重各种民意的表达，但是我们也希望呢，当家不闹事。
新年应该欣欣向荣，而不是一个欣欣向霸哦。
That's because the campaigns began after DPP caucus whip Ke Jianming called for a crusade against opposition lawmakers.
你要罢免，赶快，越快越好。他们能救不要救哈，这个时刻我们等很久。好像是以民意对抗的政党，一定是会被扫进历史焚化炉。
The main opposition party, KMT, also isn't taking this laying down and is also demanding recalls on DPP legislators as well.
我们党团已经决定了啦，他们全面罢，我们也全面罢了，不是罢4个，罢38个了。
Now, lawmakers from the DPP also face a challenge to their seats. Critics of the recall say that the law is being abused, and if overused, could cause instability in the government. They also say the influx of recalls could be costly to local governments. Supporters of the recall laws claim it's a basic right for constituents to keep their representatives accountable. But others are concerned it becomes too much of an oversight, as the fear of recall drives may cause politicians to play it safe and not make the best decision despite being an unpopular decision. In the past, local officials have been recalled. One of the biggest campaigns was the 2020 recall of then Kaohsiung Mayor Han Kuo-yu. He lost favor from his constituents when he stepped away from the mayorship to run as the KMT's presidential candidate.
最大的谎就是说会为高雄市民做到最后一刻，不会落跑，不会酸，这个是他的谎。
He was recalled with 97% of votes in favor of his removal. Campaigns to recall lawmakers aren't new, but in the 4 attempted recalls of legislators that made it to the voting stage, only one has been successful. Chen Bo-wei of the Taiwan State Building Party was removed in 2021 after a recall campaign led by the KMT. But the scale of the recalls we're seeing today is unprecedented and may never happen again. The KMT has passed amendments to the Recall Act that may affect people's willingness to participate in recall campaigns in the future.
如果你今天去做一个违法的联署，这个都会将来会构成犯罪。
必须让联署过程严谨，避免罢免变成政治动员的工具。
ID checks will be stricter, requiring people to provide a photocopy of their ID to attach to their campaign. Proponents say this will help prevent fraud. Opponents of the change fear that it could pose a privacy concern and deter people from signing petitions.
我们知道他们现在在程序委员会明天也会提出他们相关的法案，最主要就是要用身份证来卡制。而后有关于要修宪办法，民进党党团在这里宣告。
Now, it's just a matter of time before the Central Election Commission releases the results of the first stage of signature drives. The ones that pass will face the challenge of the second stage, needing 10% of constituents to support it. Then campaigners face the challenge of mobilizing voters to show up to the polls. In Taiwan, there are no absentee ballots, so voters must return to their hometown to vote in person.
The hurdles are very high, starting with the signature petitions, and then getting enough people to turn out to vote on a random day that might be sometime in the spring.
This process will take months, but in the meantime, lawmakers can continue to press forward with legislation that may deepen the country's political divides and may end up fueling the frenzy for recalls.